Another PVT. Cool.
Let's put some conventions on hold.
Terran tiers are the saltiest. Give the most reward. Excuse me. I made a tweet saying that I worry about disturbing people with DMs at odd times, and a lot of people responded being like, oh, you don't have to worry about that. Oh, stop being so paranoid. Oh, if people don't have D&D on, then like that's on them. And like they're all right, but maybe I just use Twitter incorrectly. But whenever I see something on Twitter or I use Twitter, I feel like it's like all kind of an agreement that you're making fun of like first world problems, you know what I mean? And like nothing is really that serious. So I was like, one of my main concerns in life is now worrying if I'm bothering someone about DMs, and people are like, oh, you really need to get over that. I'm also a very anxious person, and I think it's very important to realize that it's not on you, it's on them. And I'm like, oh, it's not that serious. I'm just mostly joking. Small percentage of Terrans give the worst rep. Maybe. There's definitely a little bit of Terran really is the hardest race. Okay. And can we help it if we're so beautiful and every other race is so ugly? You can't help it. And the thing is that when we say we're beautiful and everyone else is uglier, people are like, lol, Terrans, why are you guys so like salty about stuff? And it's like, no, it's like, it's not salt. We're just like inherently superior to the other races, you know? This isn't me. I'm stating facts, you know? There's no emotion tied to this. I'm just saying that, you know, there's a reason that everyone who has wrist problems is a Terran, because it requires the most skill. So, when I point out that the Protoss player wasn't as skilled as I was, I'm just stating facts.
Where shall we march? Ire shall be reclaimed. Give up.
I am here in the shadows.
I mean, am I joking?
Where shall we march? Forward.
Is it a coincidence that all the Terrans have the wrist issues? Because they put the most work in?
Ire shall
Is it a
give
coincidence
us your command.
that the disparity between Koreans and the rest of the world when it came to Terran specifically highlighted how much more of a skill cap there was for the Terran compared to any other race? I mean, am I kidding about that?
It shall be done.
Oh god.
We serve where Najakar enough.
I am. Warp your forces in somewhere else. Shadows.
Combat awaits.
It looked like an army that was like going to attack.
Yes,
Oh?
Executor.
Okay.
Don't try warping in there.
Najakar.
Get more minerals. Be industrious.
We serve.
You need to dig up more minerals.
I am here in the shadows. Very well. It shall be as you say. I am here in the shadows. State thy bidding. I am here in the shadows. Intriguing. Very
Your research is complete.
Is, interesting. Wait, what?
I am the heart of darkness.
Your best beam. Not enough energy. Start rationing.
Cold. I am the voice of the eclipse. Wheel.
Could I handle that better? Could I handle it worse?
You require.
See, comes ah.
Mineral field is out. You're low on energy.
I am. Noah Fury. State thy bidding. I am the voice of the eclipse.
Your base is under attack. How
Oh.
will you respond?
Okay.
Enemy Noah Fury.
Inadequate Vespine
Yeah, that's
gas.
on me.
I am here.
Thought I killed all the banshees. Maybe he made one more.
I serve. We cold is the void.
Your upgrade is production ready.
Justice be done.
Upgrade. You'll need more pylons.
I am the void. The skies cold.
Construct pylons or the Protoss stay home.
State.
You'll need more pylons. A
Shut up,
mineral
Manx.
field is depleted. I hope you aren't just sitting.
It shall be.
Time for battle. Understood.
Very
Your power fields aren't covering that position.
odd.
You require.
Hide a base on this
You'll
map?
never be able to
Can't.
warp this. Mineral.
Oh.
field is out. Claim another. You're low on energy.
State thy bidding.
What happened to...
Very well.
What happened to the base? Did I not tell someone to make a base? Did I not tell Probe to do that? Did you decide not to?
Let's see
So,
what
Jesus.
money bought.
We are one.
Mineral field.
Okay. Hello. Are those things talking about the Terrans? Yeah, they are. I haven't seen too many arguments that have convinced me otherwise. Yes, the barcode is gonna have to work harder to win in GSL. Sky seems like he's like just getting into Terran or something. It's very, very, very safe play. The build doesn't make any sense. He goes into pretty fast Banshees, which really could have been brutal for me, but then doesn't use them unless it's for the push. The Banshees can be used for the push. That's totally fine. Generally, if you see Banshees, though, they're going to distract. They're going to get into the mineral lines. And regardless if they were a surprise or not. But in this case, they were a surprise. The Protoss goes, ah, shit. And they gotta, like, pull 3 Stalkers and Observer into 2 different mineral lines. Then the Banshees get 5 kills, get no kills. They run away. They go, haha, your Stalkers aren't buying any time on the front lines. And now my army's already in front of your base, sieging up, and I'm gonna go join with them. And that's why the Banshees can be really terrifying, scouted or unscouted. In this case, totally unscouted. Oh, I went for the Raven first, that's right. Well, the Raven first didn't make any sense. Again, very safe play that doesn't make sense. Seems like he's more scared of me than I am of him. It's 1 Cyclone, 1 Raven. It's a very defensive setup. It's like, I'm afraid of DTs. I'm afraid of early gateway attacks. You know, and scouting could have told him that he didn't really have to be afraid. I didn't have any forward gateway. I didn't have gateway Cybernex core even. I went gateway Nexus Cybernex core. He didn't have to be scared, and he didn't even build a bunker, so it's like he's kind of scared, but kind of not. And he's setting up for this push, which I feel like could have been done on 2 bases. He didn't have to build a high ground command center after a full-on 1-1-1 build. It doesn't hit particularly fast. Or particularly hard. Especially because he didn't even commit, you know? If he had just gone right towards a 3rd, it actually would have been fine. Go towards a 3rd, get the pop, get the cancel, and then leave. It's like not terrible. Instead he lets all me kill us all his speed, so... It just seems like a very confused Terran who is not only scared of Protoss, but is having a really tough time understanding Protoss. You know, either this is one of their first times attempting Terran, or they're one of those Terrans that's like, Protoss doesn't make any sense, I push out, I die, I turtle, I die, and then they yell out into the void. But it all kind of starts with just like the build order. He wants to do a really nasty tank push with Banshees. They exist. And he pushes into my natural, which of course has an overcharge. All of this could have been an okay contain if he was macroing back at home. But he was not. Floating a bunch of money, not building any SCVs. All about the macro. The build order's wrong, the macro is wrong.
Warning. Philanthropist programs detected in comms.
Don't study this guy. As for me, I could have done a lot of things better. Thank you, Anonymous, for giving us up the pikeman. Not sure that was a diss or a compliment. This is only master? Well, because Parsum's like grandmaster and a professional. Could be either one, honestly, but sure wasn't full of ill intent. So I figured there was going to be an attack as soon as I saw the setup, like the Cyclone and the Raven. I was like, what else could it be? So I got the shield battery. That was a good call. Added on more production. That was a good call. One of the worst things that can happen, I think just generally a Protoss can find themselves in this position, right, where they're like, okay, a Terran's gonna like tank push me. They're gonna early attack me. So maybe it's a 3 racks push. Maybe it's one of the classic tank pushes. And they're like, fuck, what do I do? And that's fair, because it can be something that's really nerve-wracking, especially when you're not, you know, adept enough at StarCraft to know exactly which one it is and exactly what time they're going to push. But generally, there's one humongous, like, very shared trait amongst every Protoss who panic when they see this push, and that's that they stop macroing. Specifically, they stop building gateways. And depending on the build you're doing, it can matter more or less, but if you're doing the build that I'm doing, very gateway heavy, Twilight Council, Blinks, charge, then the worst thing you can do right now is go into autopilot, build probes, build army. It's something you could do and at least be spending some of your cash, but if you do only that, if you don't build additional gateways because you see the army coming and you're like, oh shit, then you're going to be capped out. You're going to start banking 400 extra minerals, you know, every round because you can't warp in enough. And not only like that, if you're producing probes, because you're in the habit, and having a habit of building probes even under distress is a very good habit to have. The next thing you have to learn is that when things look very committed, and this felt committed even though it was just kind of a bad build, you don't really want to be building probes. The 3 probes you don't build is a gateway that you can build that will eventually finish. It will eventually pay off. Because these tank pushes, you know, they're all about sieging up and getting bunkers in front of them and whatnot, so you actually got some time. If it's a 3 racks, it's a little bit different, but even with the 3 racks, you know it's coming. They're coming in with sustainment combat shields. You're like, oh shit, what do I do? First of all, overcharge shield battery. Just make sure the shield battery is protected. Really, that kind of is... It's kind of how you defend a 3 racks nowadays, honestly. It's just have units and have a shield battery to overcharge. It's kind of... It's not a very good build to use very often. But anyways, but then even that, you know, if you have an order of operations in your head in StarCraft, because that's really what a lot of StarCraft is just knowing what to do first and second and third, and then you make it quicker every time. When you see a push like this, you're going to continue getting like your basics of your build. You know, your blink's done. You're going to go on a charge. You're going to have a robo. And you're like, okay, they're doing that. The next thing you should think of is actually getting production. And maybe you don't get enough production immediately. Like 6 gateways isn't impressive. And I should have gone up to more gateways quicker than I did, but for now, I could afford 3 extra gateways with the bank that I had. Get the 3 gateways. And then other aspects of it is you want to try and use your blink stalkers to buy time, to pick off things. And wait for charge. Grab an immortal is something that's going to be very helpful. This is where you can focus entirely on just like spending your money. building units wherever you can. Gateway units or a couple of immortals. But so many Protosses, me included, kind of freeze up and then forget to build additional gateways. And then only working off of 3 gateways with 2 base saturation is just, it's not going to get you very far. And then overcharge. Easy, right? I shouldn't even taken that fight like I did. There's really no reason for me to. I was like tempted to grab the Cyclone because it looked like it was alone, but it definitely wasn't. It looked snipeable, but it wasn't. If I had 10, 12 Stalkers, maybe it's snipeable, but I shouldn't have done that. This wasn't really a threat, you know? When you really take a look at this, what threat was I really under? Not a whole lot. There's something to be said about letting him continue, of course. You know, the first 2 bunkers aren't anywhere close to my structures. That's not a big deal. But then if I let him reinforce and I let him get more bunkers, okay, then that's a big deal. But I really wasn't under a ton of threat. I could have left these Stalkers killing reinforcements and then just start mortaring in Zealots, because I know Zealot charge is on the way. And Zealot charge, like, breaks these pretty easily. It didn't end up mattering because this guy had already done a bad build and mishandled the situation as well, but that's what I should have been doing. And then warping in. Yeah. That kind of cuts it for the game. After that push didn't work, it was game over. I thought maybe he was going to follow up with a 2-base all-in, because I didn't actually see his 3rd. All I saw was that he had his bases covered. I could have unsieged this observer and gone to check, right? But I was more worried about finding his army suddenly in front of me than I was about finding out what his army was doing at home, you know what I mean? So I made this more of a bit more of a guessing game than it should have been, but it's not like it was actually a guessing game. Like, my Stalkers still were able to see that he's at home. And he's still tank-based. So if he tries to move across the map, I've got some time. I've got some charge lots. This game's fine. Yeah, because I didn't see his 3rd CC. I actually thought he was going to do a 2-base follow-up, which would have been a bad idea if he had macroed. But he did not. Shows the other side of this done right. Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Sound Asleep, for the 2 months. So, the other side of this is, you know, what can the Terran do better? It's hard to say, because this guy really didn't do any type of build. Like, obviously, none of us, up until, like, GM, everyone else isn't doing a build correctly anyways. Not really. Masters 1's getting kind of close, but... yeah, the build was not, it was not anything that I recognize, that's for sure. But let's say that your goal is to do, like a mid-game tank push. Early game tank push, not mid-game, early game tank push. Then you can factory expand. You can even fully 1-1-1. Hero Marine has done a couple of these builds for the open cups, where you can do the full-on 1-1-1 and then go into a command center. The thing is that this guy was a bit directionless. So, you know, whenever you're thinking about build orders and maybe you're feeling intimidated because build orders are what the pros use and I can't even do what the pros do, like, why would I ever want a build order? A build order is just a way to tighten up an idea, right? My idea is that I want to do a push. How do I do that push the best that I can? I do it by this and this and this, right? But having just a concrete idea of what you want to do is already a great start for StarCraft, because so many people get into a game and they don't have a plan, or they had one for the first 2 minutes and then they just blank out and they're like, wait, fuck, StarCraft's hard, what do I do? So the guy's plan apparently was to do an early game tank push, yet what he did build was a Cyclone, which is very defensive and totally unnecessary. He saw that I didn't have a forward gateway, he saw I wasn't aggressive, so you don't have to build a Cyclone. Then he builds a Raven, which again isn't really minded towards an attack. Like a Raven can support an attack, but it is a support, and it's also very expensive, it's not that fast building. If you're looking for something that you've committed to pushing off your command center for a much longer time than a normal build. You kind of want to also expedite the things you're building. And not dilly-dally with kind of more useless items. Maybe his thought process was that if he got the Raven, he could snipe my observers. The problem with that thought process is that, one, it depends on your Protoss opponent being bad and making a mistake, which is always questionable. And then two, because surveillance mode exists, it's the easiest thing for me to surveillance mode an observer right here and make it so it's really difficult to actually snipe it. So I don't like that plan, but maybe that was his plan. I don't know. So back to the subject. So you're doing the tank push, right? And again, you have a better tank push than what this guy has. You already have 2 tanks working on your 3rd. You already have a Banshee with Cloak over halfway done, and you're getting your 2nd Banshee. The first thing you can do is use your Banshee to set up a harassment. So right now, you have a Banshee that could try and poke its head in. Well, in like 10 seconds when it has Cloak, right? But you didn't afford a Raven. You didn't do what this guy did. You went directly into Banshees. You could then poke your Banshee in with Cloak and reveal it and make the Protoss go, oh shit, Banshees. Then they have to afford 200 minerals and shield batteries, and they have to position their Stalkers defensively. So their Stalkers aren't out here searching for an army or buying time. That'd be better. You don't do that. You're just like, I don't have the patience or the APMs to harass with Banshees. Okay, fair enough. You still don't actually have to do that. If you talk about this push, and this push alone, what could he have done better? Controlled it. Controlled it. Would have been really nice. SCVs were put on auto repair, which is the first thing you really want to do. Sometimes auto repair will screw you, so you still have the micro SCVs, but generally auto repair that. But then you gotta make sure that it's together with the whole army. I don't even really care that it's on a single hotkey. If your entire army is at least combined. And then he doesn't do anything. He doesn't even react. He just lets his SCVs, like, idle and die. He probably faces Protoss players who just aren't active with the Stalkers. So he probably, I'm guessing what he did was send his army out. He was like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, army, go here. Da-da-da-da-da. Like, he probably thought it was a safe location. And then he could go do a macro cycle at home and pay attention later, but that's just not... Especially because his Banshees didn't provide any harassment. My Stalkers didn't have any other job besides searching for where the army was coming in from. So, he has a super late reaction. He loses his SCVs. He can't build as many bunkers as fast as he would want. He doesn't do any forward scouting. It's another big thing. A very easy thing to include in your games is putting a Marine on the forward scout. Or one of the SCVs. One Marine or one SCV. Maybe even a Cyclone. You know, like something. But one unit out to see where you want to attack and where they're positioned. If the Marine walks forward and sees the 3rd Nexus, maybe he says, you know what? I don't want the Nexus. I want the natural. He doesn't even have that decision right now. He just kind of like is in the middle doing nothing. Or if he sees that there's no shield batteries here, then he can commit there. Or if there's no shield batteries here, they can commit here. But he has no scouting. He has no idea. All I know is that Stalkers appeared. Then he starts siege hopping his tanks forward, which is good enough. But again, he doesn't have a 3rd tank like maybe he should because the Cyclone's looking a little bit useless. He actually manages to see the Stalkers, but his tank is completely alone. Generally, when you're on like a low number of tanks, it's like sometimes like safer to actually just go ahead and unsiege and siege them together instead of trying to siege hop. This was just unfortunate timing for him, though, to be honest. Like, if he just unsieged faster. Definitely worth me to take a loss of a stalker to kill his tank. I could have taken 2 or 3 losses of stalkers and still been very happy with that. As soon as your reinforcement line's been compromised, you also have to give up on that idea and just bulk up again. As soon as the Protoss pops the shield overcharge, you back away. Why? BBGB, what are you doing? What are you doing, buddy? Look at your life. Look at your previous messages in this chat channel. And just rethink your life. Anyways, either focus fire on the battery if you can, or just run away. This isn't really the fight he wants to take anyways. His tanks aren't involved. His Raven's getting fired upon. His bunkers aren't done. Run away from the shield battery. He would have had his Raven alive with 2 auto turrets. And his tank involved in the fight the entire time. He had backed away sooner. Then another problem he has is not having different hotkeys. You know, Banshee's in the same hotkey make it really awkward to micro. Decides that he can, like, kind of all in on me or whatever you want to say. Like, he has 1 tank, though. Like, it's not that intimidating. Decides he can push into me. That's not correct. Clearly I have more units. Or I have enough units with shield batteries. And yeah, that's a short list of things that he could have done better. And behind all of it, what could he do? Oh my god. Oh my god. No wonder he didn't have more tanks. He could have been macroing. He could have been macroing and paying attention to his base, which apparently is in total shambles. Jeez. GG though. GG for me. Nah. How many control groups do I use? 3, yeah.